Hello, happy Sunday on Ambiguity. As usual, this is Taylor. Some days I forget, other days I'm too busy, but today I am Taylor and I am on this channel. So this week we are talking about a very controversial topic, which I will make a disclaimer for in a minute or two. We are talking about drag culture. And to put this disclaimer out, this is my opinion as a trans masculine person who has interest in drag. This is my own opinion. You might find someone with the same opinion. You're probably not. You never know, or you might not, I should say. There are trans masc people who like drag. There are trans masc people who hate drag. There are people who identify as trans that have no opinions on drag, or really just don't like it. And that's cool. Because we are all people who are shown different things and express different interests, and that's super interesting. That's what makes us different. So I would appreciate constructive criticism, comments on your own opinions. Nothing that really is calling someone else's opinion wrong or calling someone's opinion right. Because opinions are opinions. They're not definitions. They're not in a textbook of something you need to learn. They are our own opinions. Solid. So just to start off, I am a fan of drag. I watch RuPaul, to be very honest with you. I've been to a couple of drag shows. I don't participate in drag myself. That's not my thing. I've talked about possibly doing it with a friend one time, but that was like a maybe thing of like someday when I'm comfortable more with it, the idea. But I am a supporter of the femininity and the embracement of that drag comes out with. I like that people are celebrated for being feminine because societally we celebrate masculinity a lot more. And if anything, the sexualization of female bodies is something that's very much put on display and like highlighted. Which, I mean, cool, you do you, like I say. But I support the femininity of drag. In history, the gay male community has really taken its toll on the drag culture in claiming terms that were originated by drag queens of color, such as Yas, which I am not a fan of the term. It feels weird coming out of my mouth. I will probably never say that again because that just feels really uncomfortable. But it started probably in the 1980s, 1970s. I'm awful with the actual dates, so feel free to correct me on that because that is a historical thing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So when all the Stonewall riots, Compton cafeteria riots, all that stuff was going on, that's really when drag queens of color were coming into major spotlight, I guess I should say. And of course, like most trends that we find, us white people take them over. And I include myself in the term white people, I'm clarifying. But so we probably see more drag queens now on RuPaul. That's probably like the most we see them in that culture. And most times they are someone who identifies as a cisgender male or a male, because some trans masculine people do take a position in drag and do drag. And assuming a more feminine role involving makeup and hair, wigs and stuff, and extensions and dresses and all this feminine classified things, and go under a certain female name. Some of them I think of are obviously like RuPaul, Sharon Needles, Adore Delana, who I love. Those are just some that I think of in the top of my head. But there are also very trans misogynistic things going on in the drag community, and that's what I'm not a fan of, obviously. Like, I believe this was on, I'm trying to think the exact Twitter, there was a drag queen, Katya, that's who it was. I was thinking it was Katya or Alaska Thunderfuck, and I was like, it's Katya. But like in her bio it says like that she's some type of quote-unquote T-vestite, and that's a slur in the trans community, and that takes a very heavy offense on trans people, depending on the person you are. I know medically that was a term that was used. Also, a couple slurs have been thrown around. I'm really not good at this. I don't want to say them. But that's like the real negativity in the trans community towards drag, or my own, is the fact that slurs are tossed out like very openly, and that's cis gay men primarily that are the ones using those terminologies. Something that usually is like something that makes me uncomfortable, even if a cis person did it. Even if a trans person did it, I was cringe. But especially cis people, and like when cis people do that. So the fact that this also delegitimizes the concept of a trans person identifying a certain way, and it's like, oh, why don't you do drag? Like, they're not the same thing, because most drag queens, I'm gonna put this in perspective, most drag queens, most drag kings don't want to be the person that they are in drag, like in the natural daily life. Like when I identified as female, I did not want to do drag, and I did not want to dress up as a male, because that wasn't what I'm transitioning for. I was transitioning because internally I'm a man, externally I wanted to be a man, so here I am. That's not usually the case for drag queens, and that model perspective is something that's very much delegitimizing like a trans experience in a way. Again, this is probably gonna end this because it's like 7 minutes and I talk a lot about it, but my own opinion, you'll see other people's opinions throughout the week, and yeah. Updates, I finished the huge project I was working on, as I was talking about last video. So I'm glad that's off my plate. Apparently it went over really well. The map was really detailed, and I did a solid job, which is really good for me because my autism, my like stimming has gotten a lot more necessary when it comes to my diagnosis, and I don't really talk about that on this channel, particularly because I'm still working on coming terms with it, because I was diagnosed very young with autism and being on the autism spectrum and having Asperger's. After a very traumatic experience happening at the beginning of the semester, a lot of those signs and symptoms, quote unquote, have really become more prevalent in my life again. So I'm working on that with a therapist and trying to balance my life out in a way that makes me comfortable. Yeah. Also just finals and papers and fun stuff. So this is 8 minutes. I'm gonna go, but as usual, Gentle Masculinity, message the group channel, Tumblr, ambiguityguys.tumblr.com. You can find any of those links in previous videos. Y'all know. Hope you all are doing well. I will hopefully see you next Sunday, because I only have one more video before I go home. So my post will be a little more like non-consistent, but I hope you all are doing well. I will see you next week. Cool. Bye.